poppin', y'all? It's your boy, Gardy3, and I hope you're not sick of me yet, because I'm back this morning to bring you another edition of the morning show. But, of course, it's not really my show. I'm just a guest in the house that this guy built. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Mo Feta. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great. Appreciate everybody for joining us. If you can tell, I'm being lit by sunlight. I have no light on. This is all the Lord's doing. I'm getting sunlight coming through the crib. So that's my lighting for today. Appreciate everybody key hopping in and everybody else in the chat. Let's go.
No, absolutely. Thanks for popping in right away, Key. Definitely appreciate it. But I wanted to start with a little bit of the NFL draft, Mo. Obviously that just happened this weekend. And first I wanted to ask you, how do you think your team did?
So look, they needed to address defense because obviously with a lot of the players they released and lost, they had a lot of gaps, especially when it comes to depth. Some people would say they took a swing at some guys who could be long shots. I think Michael, I don't know if it's pronounced Michael or Mikael Williams out of Georgia could be a really good football player. I'm not saying he's going to be a 12 or 15 sack guy, but what if he's an 8 or 9 sack guy? If he's a terrific situational edge rusher, I think he's the kind of guy that you can put in right now, and he's going to be able to give you some. And that's what John Lynch needed. That's what the Niners needed. They needed guys, young guys that could contribute right away. I think he can. I also think the defensive lineman they drafted out of Texas, I think he's somebody that can be in the rotation. So look, when you're drafting young players, and a lot of these guys do have accolades, honorable mention for Big Ten. I think he actually made second team All-American. These guys are talented players. I would say John Lynch, realizing that he has Robert Saleh back, I think he picked players that Robert Saleh can work with as well. So I think for what they needed defensively, I think the 49ers did well.
Say, how's it going, Pitch Grid Pod? Thanks for joining us. How's it going, Chris? Yeah, no, and fair enough. For my team, I thought we did well. I thought we addressed every position of need. Would have definitely loved to invest in a little more in the defensive line, but I know we like trying to pin that one on coaching, why they underperformed last year. So I know the Packers are banking on like a coaching change is going to bring out the best in them, and I hope they're right because that production last year is putrid. But other than defensive line, I think my Packers addressed every single need that we needed, right? Like 2 wideouts, added some more depth on the O-line. We did get an edge rusher in the 4th, so I think this draft at the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be a lot of superstar level players in it, but I think there's a lot of quality depth to be had.
I like the way you put that. I think there are a lot of players, maybe not everybody's going to be a Hall of Famer, but what if you get guys that are just really good football players that have 9 and 10-year careers? I'll take that. I will take that. And I like exactly what Pitching Grid said. He's right. Look, I trust in Robert Saleh to develop these young talents. I think a couple of them are going to be in the rotation. They're going to pan out immediately. As far as the rest of them, I think they're closer to being projects, but we'll see.
Packers crushed the draft. One of the best, in my opinion. Yeah, I thought we did fantastic. I have no complaints about our draft. Like I said, yeah, of course I can always be a little nitpicky, but you know what? That's all right.
I thought you guys went out and got a wide receiver with that kind of speed who can take the top off the defense. You just added him to an already really deep receiving core. I think that was a fantastic move. Like you said, addressing defensive line. Look, the Packers already, to me, are a high-powered offense, and I do like the fact that they have a good blend of run and pass. And who knows, this young man might be the kind of guy that can establish himself as the out-and-out number one. You guys have a lot of talented guys. Maybe he's the guy that can say, look at me. I could be the number one. At a minimum, he's going to be an impactful player with that kind of speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Who gets cut? That'll probably just end up being like Malik Heath or like Bo Melton, one of those guys who've just been kind of fringe in the rotation for a couple of years now.
Agreed.
Yeah. Say, I feel like Rogers' reaction just had to be throwing his hands up, like, really, guys? Like 2 years after I leave, you finally draft some offense in the first round.
Fair. That's fair.
What? Yeah. So, yeah. Overall though, the NFL draft, I'd say it was a fantastic experience. This is the first time I ever got to go to one live, and it was a ton of fun.
I meant to ask you, how was it being there, the atmosphere for you?
Oh, it was electric, right? Like the Packers fans were nuts. We made sure to boo every single Bears and Vikings and Lions pick, and
True Packers fans, right?
like, and they were just no matter what round it was, like the first, second, third, sixth round, like they're just electric. So overall, they predicted that there would be 250,000 people, for the draft this weekend, and it turned out 600,000 people attended the draft this weekend. So
It looked like it. When they did the camera that pans the whole area, it looked like it. It was a massive crowd. It was an amazing turnout for you guys. Let me ask you this: outside of what happened with Shador Sanders, were there any picks who surprised you in terms of being picked too early or being picked at all?
I think the one that surprised me the most, like the one that first caught me off guard, I feel like the first right answer for me was Tyler Shuck to the said 40. Like, if you're going to draft a quarterback that high, I would have went somebody younger who maybe has a higher ceiling. Like, the problem really with Shuck is he has some good film, but at the end of the day, too, like he's already 25. Like that, like he's like he was playing quarterback when Juice World was still with us. Like
That's
I
crazy.
like, and I'm not even kidding. Like he was Justin Herbert's backup. Like so. That's kind of where that was the first one that threw me off guard. I see Chris saying Dart to the Giants. That one didn't surprise me.
That didn't surprise me. I thought the one that surprised me was the kid Gabriel to the Browns, right? The quarterback. That blew my mind because they took one, you took him ahead of Shador, but then you turned around later on and you took Shador. Like, so are you telling me that Gabriel has a legitimate chance to be the number one quarterback in Cleveland?
Yeah, so I didn't like the Browns. It's funny because I like the Browns draft. I like the way they started it. I thought trading back was a great call, and they still got a quality defensive lineman in Graham. But then I didn't understand it really after that. Like round two, okay, I was fine with them after the second round, but then you go get, Gabriel, and then 2 rounds later, you draft Sanders. Mind you, you already traded another pick in this draft for Kenny Pickett.
Correct.
So you've effectively burned 3 picks on 3 quarterbacks. Like, after the first 2 rounds, I just didn't understand what Cleveland was trying to accomplish. And it's almost like they're either A, somebody stepped in, like the owner, and said, yeah, get Shador, or B, like they just wanted to make extra money off his jerseys because I don't understand. Like
I was confused too. It didn't make sense to me. And have you ever seen that movie? It's with Kevin Costner. It's called Draft Day. I think it's called Draft Day. And obviously, in Draft Day, it features the Cleveland Browns. I felt like their draft was literally the opposite of the Draft Day draft. Like they did all the bizarro world moves. Like the first pick, what you were doing, that made sense. But everything that followed, who was making those calls?
Yeah, no, I couldn't tell you. It was funny. Actually, like throughout the draft, when nobody was picking Shador, I was sitting on Twitter making draft day references under one of Skip Bayless's tweets saying that this is a travesty. Nobody's drafted Shador. I commented, nobody must have went to his birthday party. And then somebody was like, oh, Jackson Dart must have sent the $100 bill back, and it just went back and forth. It's funny because at the end of the day, like, I'm happy that, obviously, Shador fell. To me, like, I think there's just a big, like, discrepancy as to where everybody ranked him versus where he was actually, like, rated by talents. I thought he was a day 2 pick.
Me too.
So him falling to day 3, like, was a little surprising, but wasn't too surprising for me. I just kind of wish that he went to a better situation. Like, it's weird because I think Kevin Stefanski's a great coach, but we know the Browns' track record in developing quarterbacks. So I'm curious to see if this approach of, well, we're just going to draft a quantity of quarterbacks and hope one works out, pans out for them. But history tells me that probably won't.
That is a crowded quarterback room. Insanely crowded. And everybody always tells us what's the most important position in football. It's quarterback. It's a quarterback-driven league. And I have to believe if you draft Gabriel where you drafted him, you believe Gabriel is a better quarterback prospect than Shador. And if you believe that, why would you bother drafting Shador? You know what I'm saying? You already got Pickett. You already got Watson and Joe Flacco. Why? That's what I'm talking about. Like, who was making those calls? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I at the end of the day, I'll just never understand Cleveland. Like,
maybe they can't develop quarterbacks. And what they should have done is they should have drafted Jalen Milroe and they should have just played the wishbone. How about that?
Oh, just run that old high school. Just run a high school offense.
Yeah, run the wishbone, run the wing tee, something where you don't really got to throw very much.
Yeah, so best of luck to Shador. I mean, he made it, and it's great too. Like, the thing with too is now he'll have an extra chip on his shoulder. I think this could actually end up bringing out the best in Sanders because now he's going to be extra motivated. So
I think it's a great call. That's a great call.
Yeah, like, he has a lot of people to prove wrong. So, and the Cleveland job, the benefit to that is even if they can't develop a quarterback to save their life, is it's a very gettable job. Like, Sanders or Gabriel could start realistically this year if they earn the job, which you can beat Kenny Pickett rather easily. You can beat Joe Flacco in 2025. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, look, I agree. Although it wouldn't shock me if Joe Flacco wasn't day 1 starter, but we'll see.
Run the Ravens offense. Lamar's the running back anyway. We have resident Ravens hater in the house. How's it going, Kyle?
Kyle's wild.
No, absolutely. Yeah, overall, I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. I'm glad I was there too before we get off the draft because, like, when I looked on like, to see what the media coverage was on the draft, because you always got to see what everybody's saying about it.
For sure.
It's almost felt like another, like, Bronny James situation in round 2 where everybody just wants to talk about Bronny and these kids are getting overlooked because, we're just using their time to talk about Bronny. I felt like the same thing was happening with Sanders. Like, we're passing up picks.
I agree.
To talk about Sanders. And, that's frustrating to me. Like, I really hope that my wish is, like, they would stop doing that and give the kids that get, pick their time to shine. Because, some of these guys, this might be their big moment. They might get cut in training camp and never be heard from again. So, overall, they got drafted into the NFL. This should be their moment. So, I will say the one thing I would love to see is just media coverage just improve on just celebrating the pick at hand. Like, we can talk about Shador tomorrow on First Take or whatever you want, but, give the kids their moment. So that's all I'm asking.
No, I like that. And I think that's fair. It seemed like the backdrop of this draft was what didn't happen or what didn't work out for Shador Sanders. And that shouldn't have been the case. You and I both thought he was a second day pick. He ended up being drafted day 3, which I get. It's a disappointment to me where I thought he would be drafted, but he got drafted. And you bring up a great point. What he does, and I said this yesterday, is he's got to have the biggest chip on his shoulder. And if he's as good as his supporters think he is, he'll end up being the steal of the draft, right?
Absolutely. I think it was good for the fake slide, the highlight of his career. Yeah, that's fair.
And one more thing on the draft, Brett. How were the snacks?
Overpriced.
That with 600,000 people there, that doesn't shock me.
Yeah, overall, actually I didn't really eat too much inside the draft.
Smart.
There was like food trucks right outside the draft, so cuz like if you wanted like fries for example, those were like $9. But I could like step outside of where the draft was actually being held, go to a food truck and get actual food for like 5 or 10. So overall, the food around the draft though was terrific. Some of those food trucks were delicious, and I hit up Buffalo Wild Wings a couple times while I was out there. So
solid.
Overall, just had a great experience with the food. Yeah, no more Mel Kiper freakouts, please.
Mel Kiper was in his feelings. I mean, I've seen him rant. It doesn't happen very often, but he was in his feelings. Like you felt like Mel Kiper was basically Shador Sanders' agent.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like on one hand, I'm like, you're upset because you rank Shador like 6th best prospect in the draft, and you're upset that he's falling so much. But also, just don't rank him as the 6th best prospect in the draft.
And just for the record, it's not like Mel Kiper gets it right all the time, because he was one of those guys that he had Johnny Manziel ranked pretty high too. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is actually factual. The neighborhood was charging $100 to park in their driveways if you wanted to.
Whoa! People were cleaning up. Wow.
Yeah. No, we ended up parking like 20 minutes away and just taking a lift in. So
it's crazy.
$9 for fries. Do you have to grow the potatoes? Would have been cheaper that way. But we have we also have playoff basketball. We have a couple of eliminations yesterday. The Orlando Magic got knocked out by the Boston Celtics. In a series, Mo, actually, we can hang our hats on this. It went exactly like we said it would. This is a Magic team that guarded the Celtics better than 99% of the league.
Great.
And the problem is, they just can't put the ball in the basket. So, what did you think about the Celtics and Magic series? And what do you? We're not talking about that, Key. But no, we're gonna start with the Celtics and Magic, and we'll. What did you think about that series, and what do you think's next for Orlando?
Look, I think it went the way we projected it would go. Orlando's a terrific defensive team, but they don't have balance offensively. They have 2 bookend forwards that are terrific scorers, but nobody else. They brought in KCP to give them floor spacer, and he's had his worst shooting season of his career. What they desperately need is another wing. They need a wing player, be it a 2 guard or a point. They need a wing player who can create for themselves, but also get buckets. They need a third scorer, and they also need another shot creator. If they get a shot creator and a shooter, I think I'll put it this way: as good as Detroit is playing, as well as Detroit has come along, shout out to JB Bicker's staff and his staff for what he's done developing that culture and the younger core. Add another shot creator to those bookend forwards and a catch and shoot guy. I think Orlando would leapfrog Detroit. And that's not a knock on Detroit, but I'm talking about your primary players and the players around them. like I think Cade Cunningham is terrific. I don't think he's a better player than Paolo Banchero.
Say they need a PG. Oh yeah.
No, I would say shot creator. I don't want to say point guard, but yes, I want another person who can create for others, but also be able to score. What they don't need is a traditional point guard.
Yeah, it's funny because like the short time, well, they did have a more traditional point guard in Jalen Suggs. They were the 3 seed in the East, so I do agree they need a shot creator. They just need somebody who can consistently get efficient offense in the half court.
And they need a pure shooter too. Somebody that if left alone, it's money, right? Like they've got a team of bricklayers. You need someone other than those two forwards, other than Banchero and Wagner, to be able to make shots. You get them a third scorer and a pure shooter. Like I said, as good as the Pistons are, and I think the Pistons are very good, I think Orlando would leapfrog because I think Wagner's going to be a year better. Paolo's going to be a year better. Those two are monsters. When you look at Detroit, as great as Cade Cunningham is, the second guy, and I'm talking about the young core, I'm not talking about Tobias Harris and Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. I'm talking about the young core within that. The second guy isn't as good as Wagner is. And I know before you say yes, Jaden Ivey is very talented. He's been injured. But I think Wagner came out of nowhere. People didn't realize that he can put the ball on the floor the way he can. He's a monster.
Oh, believe me, I love Jaden Ivey, but I never thought he was as good as Franz Wagner. Like, I don't really think that's too much of a debate. But yeah, I agree. They already have like 2 really good forwards. Like, if they could figure out a point guard.
Ooh. Somebody in the chat said, "I love LaMelo." You can always say something nice about anybody. So what I will say nice about LaMelo Ball, he's incredibly talented. I wouldn't say that he would be the answer for Orlando. What you don't need is a volume scoring point guard. If your point guard takes 20 plus shots a game, he's not a point guard.
LaMelo's interesting in the sense that if you want to trade for him to a contending team, you're also just banking on like him doing a lot of his stupid stuff is just stays in Charlotte, like the one-legged 25 footers and just all the ridiculous stuff that he pulls. Like, he would definitely have to tone down the volume and to get that efficiency way up. But I think might be a worthwhile gamble, especially if you're the Orlando Magic.
Right.
He might
think about it from the other side, partner. Let me push back real quick. I get it. But he's like an all-star caliber player right now. We both agree, right? He's an all-star. What would Orlando have to give up to get LaMelo Ball? Like, you're Charlotte, you're bereft of talent in the bigger picture. Why would you give up? Like, if I was going to move LaMelo Ball, there are better packages than what Orlando could offer. If you're not going to give me one of those forwards and some other pieces, I'm not trading him to the Magic. I'd have to assume unless Charlotte is out of their mind, that you're going to give me back at least Wagner and somebody else. That's all I'm saying. Like, you have to know they're going to want him something back in return. He's not going to go. They're not going to let him go to Orlando and add him to Wagner and Paolo. That's not realistic.
Say, yeah, we another name that's going to be on the market possibly.
No, I agree with Cottrell. Right. I would give anything that's not named them. But to be honest, if you look at that roster and you're Charlotte and you're trading LaMelo, I ain't got nothing I want. There's nothing in the roster that you would want. I would, if I'm shopping LaMelo Ball, I'm going big game hunting. Give me an established star, right? When you pursue a Devin Booker or somebody like that, I'm not looking to get somebody's bench warmers. I'm not getting, you know what I mean? Like, if outside of LaMelo, who do you want? Or I'm not like, correct myself. Outside of those two forwards, who do you want? Jalen Suggs is a really good player, but he's not the kind of player that you can build around.
Yeah, you know what? Now It's funny you said Devin Booker, and now I'm just thinking of like LaMelo Ball and Bradley Beal forming like the most unserious backcourt that we've ever seen. But yeah, I agree with that. Like that's the tough part. I think the Magic are interesting in the sense that they have like a lot of like 3-and-D guys. They have guys that would look really good on like contending teams. But if you're a team like Charlotte, I'm like, don't really like. I don't want Suggs. I don't really care if I get KCP. I almost think a more interesting destination because this could be a team that's their point guards available, and they would probably want some 3-and-D players back.
Yeah, for sure.
Memphis. Say,
Let me ask you this. So, how about a monster trade? Like we like to do hypotheticals. Here's a monster trade. Ja Morant and a couple of those young pieces for LaMelo Ball to Memphis.
yeah, you know what?
I'm just saying.
Hey, no, I think that would be a lot of fun too. If we know the Grizzlies could cover up for any weaknesses on the defensive end for someone like LaMelo, so I think that'd be an interesting one. Control's not a fan though.
Come on, Control, you love Ja Morant. Come on, baby.
Yeah, I think too with Ja Morant, I think that'd be an interesting idea for the Magic because like this might be their best chance to get him because you might be able to buy low on him. Like he's had a little bit of a down year. He's got some drama with the coach getting coaches fired apparently. So I think we're running into a situation where if you're Orlando, might be inquire about Ja, see if he's available for the right price.
Yeah, I asked that question earlier today. Is it time to move on from Ja Morant? But look, I think that this is a good segue to go into the other series. Obviously, your Bucks got knocked out by the Pacers. You can call them their nemesis, I guess. I'll let you go and I'll follow up because I'm sure you have a lot to say.
I think my little headline under my name pretty much describes how I'm feeling this morning. I was actually live on a show when the Bucks got knocked out last night. I was on the ball, and it's just so unfortunate. Like, it's annoying. I'm so annoyed that we have to waste another year of Giannis's prime because one, we can't put the right moves around him. Someone like Giannis, I thought would be pretty easy to build around. Guess what? You have an elite two-way player that likes to finish at the rim. What do? Surround him with players that can shoot. Some floor spacers, a little bit of defense. Boom. Well, obviously we trade franchise icon for Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. We also get rid of AJ Johnson and a 2028 pick swap, all to acquire Kuzma. And it worked out terribly, just like I said it would. This is my victory lap. I was waiting for it. I told everybody I got called an idiot. I got called names. Well, Kuzma's just bad because he's in Washington and they're an unserious franchise. Yeah, Kuzma's just an unserious player. Like, he stinks. He's not a good basketball player. Like, he's not a good defender. Well, he's not a good shooter. Like, he doesn't really just do all that much of anything. He can defend one action. If you're isolating on him, it's fine. Anything else, he's lost. And he doesn't get back on defense off of his missed layups, forces us to constantly play 5-on-4. There's a reason we looked a lot better when we, benched him at the end of game 4. But at the end of the day, it's just frustrating that Giannis's prime, again, gets wasted because we have to hire Glenn. And I refuse to call him Doc Rivers because Doc almost, refers to doctor, but, doctors actually are pretty smart, and Glenn's just an absolute fucking moron. He's just a total idiot who took, 4.5 games ago. let's try benching Kuzma. Which, guess what? We went on like a 20-0 run as soon as we benched him in that second half of Game 4. So naturally, Game 5, all of a sudden it's like, oh, look, he changed the lineup. He changed the lineup to what I wanted after Game 1. Hey, guess what? Once again, surround Giannis with 4 shooters. Hello? Like, at the end of the day, it's annoying because we nuked this whole Kuzma trade because we just apparently everybody in the league except John Horsch knew that Kuzma's just total donkey shit. Sorry for my negative language. And Glenn is just an awful coach. And the problem is he's probably going to go into his next presser and make all the excuses. Hang on. Let me tell you how this is going to go. I got the script. Well, you see, everybody wants to talk about us blowing a 8-point lead in 40 seconds, but they don't talk about the part when we were up 118 to 111 with 40 seconds to go. Because we've heard him do that, right? Mr. Oh, well, I don't get enough credit for being up 3-1. Yeah, because you lost. You suck. You're supposed to be one of the 15 greatest head coaches in NBA history, I was told, when they made this top 75 list. Isn't that right? Well, guess what? It turns out you're just a bald fraud. That's exactly what you are. This should be your last head coaching job ever. Nobody should touch this guy with a 10.5-foot pole. He sucks. And I pray that the Milwaukee Bucks have already gave him his walking papers. And I don't care who coaches him. I don't care if it's a fan raffle. It could be one of us on the show. It could be the next person who comments could have the damn job. But as long as it's not that bald fraud, Glenn Rivers, get him off my basketball team and keep him out of my state. I don't want to see this man in Milwaukee ever again. Your turn.
So, you're not going to the Doc Rivers cookout this year.
No.
Look, I don't know. It was a tough way to end the series that the odds were stacked against you. And Damian Lillard suffering that horrific injury only compounded things. I'm one of those. I look at how things ended. And by the way, I've seen some crazy endings. Easily top 3 for me, and I've seen some crazy ones. It's one of the 3 craziest endings I've ever seen. It's one thing for him to turn the ball over once, but for Trent Jr. to turn over the ball multiple times. And I get it. I don't want the story to be that Trent Jr. is the reason they lost. Those turnovers hurt. But he's not the sole reason. He didn't tell AJ Green to foul Halliburton going to the basket. Once he blows by you, you have 2 options: foul him to the point where he can't get the shot off, or just let him go and let him score. He actually had to go the other route and gave him an and one. And it wasn't his fault that, as great as he is, Giannis got caught with his hips open and Halliburton blew by him. Clean blow by, went to the basket and scored. It was a horrific collapse, but that was 100% a team collapse. And I'm not one of those people to get into the rumors of what could happen and what won't happen. You're a Bucks fan. You lived it. You've grown up being in it. We're both lovers of the NBA. 2 guys. We can talk hoop, me and you all day long. From your perspective, I'm not talking about any stupid rumors about Giannis is going here or going there. I'm simply asking you, when you look at your franchise, do you think they can retool around Giannis, or do they need to rebuild around? Let me spin that another way. Can they rebuild around Giannis?
It's tough to say.
And this isn't me questioning Giannis. Just for anybody that's listening, I know he's a franchise player. I guess I'm questioning, can the Bucks GM and the front office make the requisite moves to put talent around him?
I don't really have a lot of faith in the Bucks front office to make the right moves. Do I think it's possible? It'd be challenging, but I mean, it's possible, but you'd have to get like your first step, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't got a lot of picks. We don't have a lot of going forward. We don't got a lot of trade assets. Another reason why I thought the trade at the deadline was so stupid. Oh, well, we trade to get under the second apron. We can match salaries. Like, cool, we don't have anything to trade, so I really don't care about us aggregating salaries. It's irrelevant. Your first step would obviously be firing the coach. We need to get a coach in there that can really maximize your end of bench guys and real young guys. Like, that would be the first step. And then just getting lucky on a lot of, just flyers at the end of the bench. We did nail the Gary Trent, signing at the end of the day. A lot of people are going to talk about the turnovers. We're only in the position to possibly win the game because he stepped up and dropped 30 in back-to-back games. So we nailed that. We have to hit on, some more like that. When we have Giannis, I'm always gonna believe in, Giannis to be able to kind of carry the team. But being realistic, as of right now, do I have faith that they'll be able to, just retool? No, not really. Like, I don't really have faith after watching what they did at the deadline and how they handled the latest coaching hires, but I pray that we're able to.
So Cottrell kind of is where you're at. He's like, well, and you guys are stuck with Glenn. Yeah, I get why people want Doc Rivers fired. I guess because you guys I think you still have two coaches on the payroll. I don't know if they would fire a third. They might. Maybe if Giannis did a power move and said he wanted Doc gone, I'm sure they would do it. I guess, look, it's tough going forward for everybody. That was a tough loss in a series that, had they won that game, it could have been interesting. But you move on, right? I know this. If I'm the Bucks management, I'm with you. I don't know if they have the ability to put talent around him, but I know that I'm not thinking about trading Giannis because everybody's you have to trade Giannis. Like, I don't have to do anything. He's one of the 5 best players in basketball, and Cottrell brings up a great point. You don't have a lot of assets. That's the struggle. And the only movable asset you have that is in demand would be Giannis. Let me ask you, Brett, you're the Bucks front office. You look at your cap situation, you look at your roster construction, you know that Damian Lillard basically is not going to play next year. If he did, it might be near the end of the season, and that type of injury, it's going to take him a minute to be looking anywhere near like Damian Lillard, and he's probably going to be, 35 years old coming off of that. So let's assume he's not playing either. You're the Bucks GM. Would you entertain moving Giannis?
At the end of when it comes to Giannis, I only entertain it if he asks for a trade. It's not something I would ever entertain because, when we're talking about Giannis, like, yeah, even if we're, getting, let's say, knocked in the first round, Giannis, even from just a financial aspect, he's always going to be one of the highest jersey sellers. Like, he just draws so much revenue and business to Milwaukee that, no, I don't think it would ever actually entertain moving him. The only way we'd entertain it is if he came up with like, hey, listen, I'm out at the end of my next contract, trade me. Like, I think if Giannis gets moved, it's a trade request from Giannis, because I don't think the Bucks would ever actually entertain moving him.
That's fair. And by the way, I agree with you. I think the Bucks front office is of the mindset that they're not going to move him unless he directly comes to them and asks for a trade. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, he's a minority owner, Cottrell.
So yeah, and look, the way these playoffs has played out, obviously the series, also the Detroit Knicks series, that's become a really good series that you and I both thought could be potentially. So I guess we're not surprised. But I will say this. if Detroit were able to knock the Knicks off, do you think there's any chance that the ramifications would be that Tom Thibodeau could get fired?
Yeah. I could absolutely see it. Especially this year, right? This is a weird year for coaches. We've seen them get fired for less. Like we watched Mike Malone get fired, and they were like the 4th seed in the East. Taylor
Right.
Jenkins was like
Right.
up to like the 5th seed, and he was fired. I absolutely think that if this team gets knocked in the first round by Detroit, that yeah, I think the first guy they would look at is Tibbs. I think he would probably get the boot.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Cottrell brings up a great point. OKC has a ton of assets, ton of picks, and obviously the Bucks would be able to get a star player that they could put in immediately if they want to go that route. The only reason I would say that wouldn't happen, I mean, maybe it would. Think about this. They have Chet Holmgren, they have Hartenstein. If you're actually trading for Giannis, I have to believe you can get J-Dub, you can get Hartenstein and the picks. Maybe some like you would get a haul from them. There's no way they're going to keep Hartenstein, Chet, and Giannis on the roster. You're going to get one of them along with J-Dub and a bunch of picks. So you would get a haul. They have the most to offer.
And I completely agree. And if we have to trade Giannis, that's the first team I'd probably look at because we would get J-Dub. And this is the Thunder team that I wouldn't be shocked if the pick, count reached 8 picks, 7 or 8. Like it would be, I feel it would be a package unlike anything that we'd ever seen, and we'd end up with J-Dub, So overall,
I like that though. If I'm getting J-Dub and Hartenstein out the gate, let's say they throw in Wiggins, who's actually a really good player too, and you get 6 or 7 picks. You can't ask for more than that. You're talking about the haul that we've never seen in NBA history.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, getting guys like iHeart would be perfect because we got to remember too, if we're trading Giannis, even if we do, we're not truly going to rebuild. We're not going to bottom out because there's no point. Like we still don't have our own picks unless we're trading them to the Pelicans for all of our picks. So at the end of the day, we're going to be trying to we're going to be trying to get a lot of draft picks, but we're also going to be trying to get pieces to help us win now and try to, contend at least for a play-in spot or as good as we can do. Because, right now, kind of what makes the most sense. There's no incentive to really bottom out. So I think if, Giannis does get dealt, the Thunder are probably the destination that can give us the best destination that can give us the best of both worlds.
I agree. That I'm with you. If I'm the Bucks GM and Giannis makes that request, that's the first phone call I'm making. I'm talking to Sam Presti. Although, if the Thunder were to go on and win everything and win it all, I'm wondering if they would be reluctant to break up a championship team. I'm just saying, even though it's Giannis.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're kind of in purgatory already, so that's the hard part with not having your picks until 2032. We're just kind of in purgatory regardless, so I'm not.
That's facts. Okay,
really concerned with that.
But if you get J-Dub, who I believe is 22, 23, Hartenstein's 25, the question you have to ask is the J-Dub Hartenstein duo as good or better than the Hero Bam duo? I would say it's as good, and it's probably better because I think J-Dub is better than Hero. And you're going to get the picks, which that's what actually makes it the better trade. Because you're going you get 2 players that keep your team relevant in the now, like you said, and the picks gives you trade power too, because you can use the picks, but you could also take some of the picks and put them in another package to get another established star.
Oh, absolutely, and of course, we got 2 games tonight. I'm curious. We got obviously Warriors, Rockets, Wolves, Lakers. Do you think that the Rockets or the Lakers, survive to a game 6 tonight?
I would be shocked if the Rockets survive the game 6. And this is not. I'm not. I don't have a dog in that. I'm not hunting a dog on either side of that bone. But I just don't think the Rockets have enough. Can Jalen Green give you a 38-point game tonight? Absolutely. He's capable of it. But if I were a betting man and I'm betting my money on it, I'm not trying to go broke. He's more likely to go 5 for 18. He's more likely to disappear. They just don't have enough firepower. And the thing is, if you watch these games, they are getting Golden State to play at their pace. The game is being played the way the Rockets want them to be played. The Rockets are kind of similar to Orlando in that they have tons of defenders. They don't have tons of shooting. They don't have tons of guys that can get their own shot. Jalen Green can get his own shot. The problem is he misses most of them. But outside of him, Van Fleet had a great game last game. But before that, he was shooting 33%. Şengün had 31, but he only shot 43%. They made him a volume scorer. They just don't have closers on that team. So do I think they come out fired up? Look, if they out and out blow Golden State out, good, then you're going to see a game 6. But if it's a basketball game like it's been throughout this series, Golden State's going to win. They're going to close them out. They're a better basketball team. It's as simple as that. For all their flaws, when people look at the Warriors because they're small, their core players all know how to play. Draymond, super high basketball IQ. Steph, Jimmy Buckets, high basketball IQ. Even their role players, Pods, Moody, high basketball IQ. And then you have Steve Kerr. I just don't think Houston is a balanced basketball team. And I don't see how. Here's the thing, though. If you're somebody that's waiting in the next round, you would love to see Houston because of all their flaws. I just think Golden State is going to close them out tonight. I think Steph is going to come out firing, and I think they close them out.
Fair enough. On the flip side, though, if the Rockets do make it to the next round, that means all of a sudden they figured out a way to get on a heater. So, I don't know, you'd be getting a hot Rockets team. So that would
not impossible, right? What if the Rockets flip the series around? They win the series, and they end up playing. Let's say they end up playing the Timberwolves because that's what it looks like right now today, I believe. I don't think, and the Rockets have a ton of defenders that they can throw at Anthony Edwards, which is it's a fact. And they have a big man in Şengün who can get buckets for you. I still think if I were picking that series, I would pick the Timberwolves because I know my best player, even when he doesn't have a good shooting night, he's still going to make plays. He can still get to the free throw line and generate offense that way. This isn't I don't trust what the Rockets have. They need more. What they lack shooting and they lack a closer. And until they get that, they should be a first round exit.
No, that's fair enough. It's funny because you could tell Jalen Green, he clearly works on his game a lot, but he's one of those guys and it looks like he has a really good work ethic, but at the end of the day, it just unfortunately he doesn't have the athleticism to really just blow by or just do little things to be more efficient in the half court. And the problem with Green is it's kind of the weird thing about Green is he's athletic, but he doesn't have the body control for somebody as athletic as he is. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens tonight in Game 6, though, for sure.
And look, he is athletic, he is quick, but it's funny because the style of play that the Rockets like to play, if the other team matches that level of physicality, it immediately takes Jalen Green out the game. And look, Cottrell's I've been banging on Jalen Green. I'm the first to admit that he's talented. This isn't me saying he's not talented. I'm just viewing him in a different light. When people bring up the word talent, I can accept the fact when you tell me somebody's talented, but how they apply the talent and what they do with the talent is what matters to me. Jalen Green to me is talented, but if he's your best player, you're not a title contender. Jalen Green should be on a title contender. He's your third scoring option. That's the best way I can put it. And because he's so streaky, somebody that streaky shouldn't even be starting. He should be coming off your bench like a Malik Monk or Jamal Crawford or a Lou Williams. Like, he's that kind of scorer, but he's not reliable, not night in and night out. And so I'm not, again, this isn't me saying he doesn't have talent, but having talent by default doesn't make you a good player. I think he's a very inconsistent basketball player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so what do you think the keys are going to be tonight for your Lakers to stay alive and force a game 6?
Look, they got to stop somebody. To be really, really frank, if you told me, and I said this yesterday, that if you told me that the trio of Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, and Jaden McDaniels was going to outscore the Lakers trio, I'd have been like, not likely. Even with Ant-Man going off, not likely. And Julius Randle, this is the best he's ever played in the playoffs. And that's not an exaggeration. This is the best he's ever looked in the playoffs on both ends of the floor, and he deserves all the credit in the world. And Jaden McDaniels, he has been the X factor in this series because he's almost doubling up his scoring average, which is crazy. And the Lakers have not solved that riddle. Tonight is real simple for me. If Anthony Edwards comes out in attack mode and stays in attack mode, that means even if the Lakers go on a run, if he stays aggressive, that means getting to the free throw line 10 or 12 times, but constantly attacking and keeping the Lakers on their heels, Minnesota's going to close them out. If they get the Anthony Edwards that they got last game and he doesn't let up, I think the Lakers get closed out.
Yeah, say the two things that have caught me off guard with the Timberwolves really so far is just the shooting of Julius Randle has been pretty wild. Like, I thought the Wolves would be tough to stop if he shot like 35% from three.
Right.
But going into game 4, he was shooting 50% from three, which is absurd.
I know.
And also, of course, Jaden McDaniels. He's been so aggressive attacking off the catch and getting to the basket. Just multiple 30-point games, something that you don't really see from him often. He's been so aggressive as a scorer.
And they have a clear strategy, right? Like, they're bodying up Luka and LeBron and defending them full court. And yes, they're both being effective early, but later in the games, it appears that neither one of them have their legs from the constant defensive pressure. It wears on them. They're getting outscored the last two games in the fourth quarter, and it's not even close. I think with and I know Trail keeps talking about they need to play Vando. I think you can play Vando early, but he's got to prove that he can stay on the floor, because when Minnesota's on defense, they're not going to guard Vando because he's a self-check. And he's got to find a way to be able to stay on the floor. And even if he's on the floor, let's keep it a buck. He can't stop Anthony Edwards. He might make it a little bit harder, but he can't stop him.
The challenge too with Vando is, I think, also, like, isn't that just you're just playing right into Minnesota's hands, because the counter to Vando is just going to be the Wolves going, oh, okay, yeah, so Rudy, you're in the game and you're guarding Vando, but you're not actually guarding Vando. You're just going to camp in the paint.
Yeah, putting Vando on the floor 100% allows Gobert to come into play. Yes.
Yeah, like, there's two matchups in the series that, like, are perfect Gobert matchups. Obviously, the first one being Hayes. You can play him when Hayes is out there. But, yeah, if you bring in Vando, I think you could get some defensively, but the real question just ends up being, okay, you might be able to be more effective defensively, but is it worth the offensive trade-off that is inevitably going to come from that?
I think Cottrell brings up a good point. In a very physical series, the Timberwolves has been the more physical team. I wasn't going to use that word, but Cottrell's spot on. They've punked the Lakers more times than not, especially in the second half of these games. Anthony Edwards getting up in LeBron's face and getting up in Luka's face, I have no problem with that. But what I want in return, I want LeBron to get in his face. I want Luka to get in his. I need somebody to bring some kind of fire. And I agree from that standpoint, Control. That's why you would play Vando, because Vando comes off the bench when he's playing. He comes off the bench at a 10 when it comes to heat. He comes off the bench heated. They have to play with some kind of attitude tonight. The Lakers got to play desperate tonight, and I think they have to play their most complete game of the series. They can't have a big first quarter and then go on to these lulls in the second and third quarters. I think they have to be consistent throughout, and I think LeBron and Luka both have to make a point to get downhill more. I need to see LeBron and Luka both shoot 10 free throws.
The problem with this, though, right? A big part of being able to exploit Rudy in the pick and roll, that's when you have a really good screen setter. Like, you have to really be able to pick off these Minnesota guards. And Vando's a great high-energy guy, but he's not obliterating anybody with screens. You can fight around a Vando screen. And if you're just going to allow the defender to get right back in front of you and allow Rudy to just stay right in front of the action, then you're not really going to be able to kill him that much having the screener in a screen and roll. I think if you're going to try to kill him in the pick and roll, it's better to have Hayes out there because he's just a much setter.
By the way, to credit the Timberwolves, what they've done to counter the Lakers is they put Luka in every action. They don't let Luka rest. They put him and Austin Reeves in every action they have. And then when somebody tries to hedge and come over, and the primary is Anthony Edwards, to his credit, Anthony Edwards is penetrating. When he can't shoot, he's at least getting the hockey assist by starting the rotation to the open man. It's been an entertaining series. Like I said, nobody's more surprised than me, not just because I'm a Laker fan. I'm surprised at just how well Minnesota's played on offense. They're not an offensive juggernaut. If you look at their numbers throughout the season, I think they're somewhere like 10 or 12 offensively. They're not an offensive powerhouse. They make their bones on defense. But in this particular series, they've got a third guy giving you almost 20 a night and shooting a high percentage in Jaden Daniels and McDaniels, and I give them all the credit for that. They've outplayed the Lakers in critical moments, and Anthony Edwards has been the best player in this series.
Listen, if the Timberwolves, if they want to get a real heat check on how this game's gonna go, Mo, they might as well toss it to the Grim Reaper and let him decide. We all know Rudy Gobert cashes that post fade, wrap it up. Wolves got this in the bag if that's falling for him. So
maybe they need to go to Rudy like early in the game and see if he hits that post fade, because that's a good sign for them.
Yeah, at that point, I'm just like, yeah, well, can't wait for the next round.
I think if the Lakers win tonight and it goes to a game 6, even though they're on the road, all the pressure shifts back to the Timberwolves. So this is really about if the Lakers can come out, not just play well early, but sustain it throughout. Because obviously last game, Reddick Gamble didn't use the bench at all. I don't think you want to do that. At home, historically, your bench players, your role players play better at home. So you got to give Gabe Vincent, you got to give Vando, you got to get some of these guys, Austin Connect, you got to get them in there and get them some minutes.
And also want to throw this out there, even if you lose, a friendly reminder that, guess what? This doesn't have any effect on LeBron's legacy. I know that's going to be the talk on everybody. Well, how does this first round exit affect LeBron's legacy? Spoiler alert, it doesn't.
It doesn't. I agree. It doesn't.
But, that's all the time we have for today, Mo. Anything you want to say before we get up on out of here?
Appreciate everybody hopping in on the chat, especially Cottrell, Key, Kyle. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you guys.
And make sure to check out the And One podcast tomorrow, where we will be doing a watch along. Right now, we are currently leaning towards doing a watch along for Knicks Pistons at 6:30. So make sure to tune in, hang out with us while we do that. We definitely appreciate everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your day.